Welcome to the CCRESA EdTech Summer Stretch Micro PD series. This asynchronous summer learning series is meant to help educators and leaders learn at their own pace within their own space throughout the summer, using more reasonably sized or micro PD chunks. Each episode will only be about 30 minutes, with the content organized to be easily applicable to implement into your workflow tomorrow. After viewing each episode, be sure to complete the 2-minute reflection feedback survey found in your email blast. I'm Allison Rogers, Instructional Technology Specialist at Clinton County RESA, and I will be your host throughout these Micro PD episodes. Let's dive right into episode number 3, Tips and Tricks for a Better Illuminate DNA Experience. The purpose of this session is to share tips and tricks to assist Illuminate users with basic navigation, time savers, recommendations, and overall clarity for utilizing the best resources and tools available within the warehouse. Illuminate DNA is our data warehouse system for the schools in Clinton County. It has many facets to the platform, which can sometimes be overwhelming. So today we're going to focus on the assessment and reporting side of Illuminate, or the DNA side. And I'll show you various tips and tricks to navigate the system more effectively and just to be able to obtain a better understanding of what's available to you as the user. And then the hope is that you will become a little bit more comfortable using the system, navigating it more efficiently, and the system overall feels less overwhelming. So let's start with basic navigation of the Illuminate system. So to start, you're going to go to ccresa.illuminateed.com in a Chrome browser, and they're going to log in with your username and password. Your username is your school email, and your password is whatever you have set it up to be. And when you're signed in, you will be taken to this landing page called the tile page. Before we get into what's on the tile page, let's talk about some troubleshooting if you need to reset your password. So a couple things to consider if you need to reset your Illuminate password or your current password is not working for you. You do not need to select the Change Password option in the control panel. Instead, you'd want to contact the DNA Help Desk or contact myself or Denise Palmer to reset your password manually. After we reset your password, we'll give you a temporary password which you will use to log in, and then you'll be prompted to change your password to something of your choosing, which at that point you'd want to memorize and save for future use. Additionally, some tips for login issues: always make sure you're using a Chrome browser. You might want to try clearing your cache or even try logging in with an incognito browser. And while we're on the subject of needing support such as resetting your password, here's information as to who to contact when you need help regarding Illuminate. So first we have our DNA Help Desk, so you can email dnahelpdesk@ccresa.org for a question that you're maybe not quite sure who to ask at RESA. Next we have Denise Palmer, who you can email or call. She deals with all things reports and data collection. Additionally, she can support you with Illuminate user account stuff, rostering or student account issues, and a whole slew of other things. And then my focus is all things assessment. So in the Inspect suite of assessments, you're trying to create assessments, administer tests online, proctor them, using the data within the assessments, and a whole slew of other things. But we both can support the resetting of your password, but here are just 3 emails that you could contact if you ever need support within Illuminate. Okay, so back to basic navigation. When you log into Illuminate, you'll be taken to this tile homepage where you'll see a variety of colorful tiles. Yours will look slightly different than mine. You can customize these tiles, which I will get into shortly. So let's first start down here. The bottom left-hand corner, you will see a little question mark button. If you click on that button, it will take you to various Illuminate resources. So if I click the little question mark, it pops up Illuminate resources. The first item is called the Help Center, and I think this is what you'll find most helpful on a regular basis. If you click on the Help Center, you can search by keyword for whatever you're looking for, and then it will yield things that connect to that specific topic. You click on whatever you're looking for, and then you can open this up in a new window, or you can go back or search over. Additionally, you can click on the announcements and it will tell you what's been updated, what are sort of the new things going on in Illuminate. Also, you have the remote learning resources or the remote learning resource hub that you can access. And lastly, the DNA Roadmap Hub, which essentially gives you kind of an idea of what new features might be coming to Illuminate. So again, I just click on the question mark, and I think the most common area you'll go to is the Help Center. And I recommend you searching in the Help Center before kind of doing anything else, because typically they have several helpful resources, including tutorial videos and help docs. Next is this search button right here. It essentially functions as a shortcut to search anything within the platform. So if I'm in my live site, I can click on search and I can start typing in by keyword what I'm looking for, or I can scroll through some of the default options. So for example, let's say I am looking for the View Assessments page. I just click on View Assessments and it will open up the View Assessments tab, which I can also access via my tile shortcuts or the tab page. So one quick tip to go one step further, instead of clicking on that search button, you can actually use a keyboard shortcut, Control K or Command K. So it's called the Quick Switcher feature, and it basically allows you to move quickly throughout the system without having to take your hands off the keyboard. And it opens up the pop-up that lets you do that quick search to take you anywhere else in the platform. So for example, let's say I'm in my View Assessments page. Instead of clicking the search button, I can just simply, in my keyboard, hit Control K, and this shortcut will appear again where I can select wherever I want to take me to a different place within the system. Okay, so back to the tile homepage. There are actually two ways to get back to the tile page. You can click the little Illuminate icon in the top left-hand corner, or you can click what actually looks like a little grid of tiles in the top right-hand corner. So if I click this top right-hand corner grid and select DNA, it's going to take me back to the tile page. And the same thing goes for if I am in my assessments, for example, and I want to get back to this tile page. I just click top left-hand corner on that icon, and it will take me to the tile page. Next on the home page is the dashboard. It's a little graph icon. If I click on the dashboard, it will take me to the dashboard, which gives me kind of a home page from a different view with different information, including my roster and various other information that I can set and adjust based on the widgets I want. So if I click on the dashboard, it takes me here. And up at the top, I can add various widgets. So again, I can have a class roster widget, but these are all of the widgets that I can possibly add. I could have a list of my students' birthdays, for example, my list of assessments. And just so you know that when you add a widget, it brings it down to the bottom. So right now I don't have a class roster, but I could drag it up to the top if I want that to be more easily visible, so that when I do have a roster, I can see that first and foremost. So again, this is just another view to be able to customize and access sort of shortcuts to various items in the system. If I want to go back to the tile page, just click the icon. And then we have the control panel in the top right-hand corner that basically dictates your visibility in terms of the date and your site affiliations. So I click the control panel and it will pop out and I'll be able to see my login information, including my username and my role. And then it'll also give me the options to edit my account, which I don't want to do that here. The changing the password, right? You would want to contact one of us to change your password. Additionally, where I mentioned the help option in the little question mark down the left-hand side, you can also click Need Help. Click here and it will take you to another tab of the Illuminate help bar where you can, search various subjects throughout the system. And then right below the Need Help button, if you click the Check Illuminate status here, if for some reason you're having issues with Illuminate or your connectivity, you can always click there to sort of check to see how things are running and if there are any incidences. And you can also subscribe to get the updates. So if for some reason something's down with Illuminate for the day, you can be the first to know subscribing to those updates. But the most critical element of the control panel is the enrollment rostering date and the site. Okay, so if you wanted to change the date, you could click on the little calendar, select the date, and then make sure you click Save. Additionally, if you want to change your site, likely you'll only have one site, but you might be working in multiple buildings, and so you'd want to make sure that you select your appropriate site and click Save Changes. So you might be thinking, why would I want to change my control panel date or site? Well, sometimes when you, let's say, have administered an assessment, for some reason you don't see any data. It does not seem to be available, or you're running a report and it says no data is visible. So in this instance, there could be a couple things going on. The first is typically in the summertime, there's no official term and you don't have a specific roster connected to your account, right? So if you're looking at an assessment from a previous term, then likely you're not going to see any data. The same thing goes for if you are in between terms, like between a semester in 1 and 2, for example. Let's say you give an exam or an assessment and then the next week the data does not appear because officially you're in a new term. So what you would do in that case is you would roster back in the control panel to a date in which that roster of students took that assessment, and then your data will appear. And then you want to also make sure you're always in the right site, especially if you're a teacher who is going between maybe multiple buildings. So that's a quick important tip to remember. If for some reason you're not seeing data, first check your control panel date and then can check your site. And so the last part of the basic navigation piece with regard to the tile homepage are all of the tile shortcuts, right? All of the colorful squares that you see on that landing page. Now you will notice that you have several what we call CCRESA preset tiles, right? These are tiles that we have pushed out to you so you can access various resources that we think are important. So I'm going to go through what these different tiles are, and you'll notice that you can't delete them or move them, but then I'll show you some of the tiles that you can add in. They're called the Illuminate system tiles that are basically shortcuts from within the system. And then finally I'll show you how to actually add customized tiles from outside links. So if I go to my live site, just keep in mind that my tile page order might look different than yours. But the first I'm going to explain is the Inspect Plus Resources tile. So if I click on that tile, it's going to open up a new tab that basically includes all of the resources that I would need in using the Inspect suite of assessments, specifically for math and ELA. So I could click here and I could access all of the resources that Illuminate provides for those pre-built assessments. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. The next shortcut tile is called the Secondary On-Track Student List. And if I click on that tile, it'll open up in a new tab, a shortcut to the EWS On-Track Student List where I can select my configuration that makes sense for the group of students I'm looking for. I want to make sure I pick my site and my enrollment rostering date, and then I can run that student list. This is helpful, especially if you're someone who works with your EWS team. Next tile is the student portal. It is a shortcut that you can click on that will take you to where you would direct your students to log in when taking an online test within Illuminate, and they would click Sign In with Google. Next is the CCRESA DNA Weebly, and essentially what this is a support website that I've created that has a variety of different links that can take you to help documents, resources, and different videos that I have created to help you navigate and access all of the things that are related to assessments and reporting within Illuminate. The next tile is the Inspect Plus Assessments tile. And this is basically taking you to a shortcut that gives you access to all of the pre-built assessments that are provided by Inspect. You can find this also by going to Assessments, View Assessments, and then selecting the Inspect Pre-Builts filter here. But as you can see, this shortcut I have saved it specific to the 2021-22 school year, so you will see all the most updated and recent Inspect Pre-Built assessments when using that shortcut tile. Similarly is the Inspect Legacy Assessments tile, which will take you to a shortcut showcasing the older assessments within the Inspect suite of assessments. Next is the EWS Resources tile that takes you to a help doc that provides kind of a breakdown of all of the various reports within our EWS system, including the on-track student list, our multiple configurations report, and so on. It also includes screenshots of what each report looks like, as well as clickable links to take you directly to those links or those reports. A quick tip: to allow for one of these reports to populate, you need to first make sure you're logged into Illuminate, then click the link, and then it will take you to the report that you desire. Next is called the Prebuilt Reports for Assessments tab, and this will also take you to another help doc that we created that details the various pre-built reports that Illuminate has already created for you. So when you administer an assessment to your students, these reports are all available for you to utilize, and it gives you a breakdown of the report name and essentially what it does, its purpose, as well as the corresponding help doc that gives you an even further breakdown of what that report looks like. And the last one I'm going to show you is the Student Growth Report Proficiency Help Doc. And what this does is gives you another detailed list of reports specific to student growth and proficiency. The report name is linked with a direct link, as well as the description, and it tells you if you need to change the control panel back and so on. This specific report, it focuses a lot on statewide data, so you'll notice that much of the assessments as far as the data is going to be a little bit older based on the past year, so keep an eye on this as it will be updated as the data comes in this year. Okay, so that was a quick breakdown of the CCRESA preset tiles that we push out to you. And if you ever notice a new tile that you didn't create, likely we pushed it out for a reason. It's typically some sort of help document or resource that should facilitate your navigating of the system. Now I'm going to talk through some of the Illuminate system tiles. So if I were to scroll down on my tile page, now I see some of these colorful tiles that appear to be more so shortcuts for within the system, right? So if I wanted to go to an assessment, I can do that in two different ways. First, I can check out this left-hand tab section and I can click Assessments. And then I have an option of a variety of different things. If I wanted to go to my list of assessments, I would select View Assessments, and then it's going to take me to that page where I have options to filter, and I can check out all of the different assessments. So if you go to the tile page and check out some of those preset tiles, you'll be able to determine which ones you might use most frequently and then customize it. So for example, if you're giving a lot of online assessments, what's really nice is if you had any assessments going on right now, or you had any assessments to grade, if you went into, let's say, constructed responses, right now it's saying, we don't have any assessments that need scoring, but if it did, it would actually populate those assessments and sort of serve as a shortcut for you to access that. Same thing goes for live proctoring. Right now I don't see anything, but if I had live tests going, instead of having to go fully into the assessment, I could do that. If I wanted to prepare to give a test online, I could click Give Test Online, and then it's going to prompt me to select a specific assessment within my list of assessments. So yet just one more quick way to access the assessment quickly. I can select that assessment and then build my online testing roster from there. Okay, so now let's move on to customizing your tiles. If I scroll down to the very bottom, I can see the button where it says Edit Layout. And now each tile develops an opportunity to delete or alter. So the tiles that just have the little trash can, those are specifically the Illuminate system tiles, so you can't modify them, but you can remove them. The ones that have a little trash can and the little pencil means that you've created them, and so you can modify them. And then you'll notice some at the top will give you this little like red circle with a line through it, meaning you can't remove those because those have been pushed out as a mass push to all the system. So to add tiles or customize them, I'm going to start by clicking Add a New Tile. And then let's say I want to add a system tile, so something that Illuminate has created as a shortcut. Down at the bottom here, I can click the little drop down, and basically these are like preset, so I can add all of these if I want. So let's say I want to add live proctoring. I can click Save, and now this live proctoring box or tile is added to my system. And now I can move this tile by just dragging and dropping it. I can move it, further up in my list. Additionally, I can also click the little trash can to delete the tile. But however I customize the order and which tiles, I want to make sure I click Save Layout at the end. So one last tip for customizing your tiles. I mentioned how you can add system tiles and move them around, but you can also add outside links and make them bookmarked into your tile page. So you could add maybe, for example, like a link to your gradebook or your LMS, maybe a curriculum guide, lesson plan, some sort of help doc. And so ultimately your tile page can sort of become a one-stop shop for kind of all of your clickable links that you would need within the system and even outside the system. So again, what I would do is I'd click Add a New Tile, and then I could give it a title. I'll just call this Help Doc. And then I can change the link icon, if that makes sense. And then I can copy and paste the URL. Maybe it's a Google Help Doc that I've created. And then I can change the color of the tile. And then I recommend the option of Open a New Window. And then I click Save. So when I save my layout and I click on that Help Doc, it now pops open my Google Doc Help Doc. And when I go back to my tile page, it's still there because I've saved the layout. All right, next we're going to move on to accessing student information and rosters that are connected to you. So we're going to focus on looking at the student search option. You got a couple different ways to look at student information and a couple different ways to look at individual students. First is Search 2.0, where you can search individual students and look at all their credentials. Next is Student List, where you can actually pull up basically your roster of students. And then Student Profile and Student Demographics gives you detailed information of a specific student, including everything from contact information to assessment results. And obviously your visibility of the students is impacted by the roster, right? So you're only going to see students that you should be seeing within the system. So within the system, I'm going to go to students. So if I click this little green arrow, yours might not look like that, but I have a couple extra tabs here. I'm going to click on the tab that says students, and it's going to pop out and give me a couple different options. The two that I want to focus on is Search 2.0 and Student List. First, I'm going to click on Search 2.0. Let's say I'm wanting to look up information on a specific student. And it's now going to give me this page where I can fill in whatever information I have about the student to find them within the Illuminate system. And once I've entered that information, it will then yield the specific student's student demographic page. And this is just a screenshot of fake data, but essentially what it will do is give me a list of all their information, their contact information, all the things that I would need as an educator. And then also I could click on their name. It's a clickable link, and that would then take me to the student profile page, which can give me even more information, including assessment scores and just all things specific to that student. And then also within that students tab option, the student list, if I were to select this student list, it's going to give me a list of the students that are affiliated with my roster, and it also gives me the option to filter even down further. So if you're looking for your roster, it's students, student list is the place to go. And one final tip with regard to finding your students and understanding why you're seeing which students. So a critical concept to understand is when working in Illuminate, especially at the start of the year or between term changes, it's that your SIS, likely PowerSchool or Infinite Campus, talks to Illuminate and shares information each night. So the idea is if the appropriate information is in your SIS, then the appropriate information will get to Illuminate. So if for some reason you don't have a roster in your SIS, it will also not exist in Illuminate. That goes the same for roster changes that need an overnight run to reflect. Additionally, new teachers and students need to be added to both your SIS system and the Illuminate system. So for example, if you have a new student who can't seem to access their student portal, for example, they're trying to take an online assessment, it's likely that they have either not been added to the SIS system or that their updated school email maybe hasn't been added, which is obviously crucial for accessing that student portal. So always keep in the back of your mind, why am I not maybe seeing the roster I'm expecting? Or maybe why is my visibility limited? It's all connected to the SIS. So always sort of start there to troubleshoot and then go from there. And the last part of this section is going to talk about our assessment options within Illuminate. And we have a couple different types of assessments that we can create and use. So we've got on the fly is one option where it's basically like a short quiz where you would use a bubble sheet and scan that into the system. So you already have the test created for that, you're just plugging in the answer key. Similarly, the flexible assessment, you also have sort of the test already created, and what you're doing is you're plugging in the answer key into this flexible assessment, and then students will be able to see an uploaded PDF online and be able to take it online or administer it paper pencil. Then we have the original item bank, and then we have the new item bank, which is basically new and improved. But both item banks are essentially where you would go to look for items that already exist. So test questions that already exist, you look through the bank, and then you can build your own assessment. You can also create your own items within item bank and then create an assessment from scratch. And then additionally, we have what's called the Inspect suite of assessments that are all pre-made assessments, pre-packaged, that I'll talk about in a minute. And then lastly, you have the skills assessment, which uses words or numbers or images to create sort of that one-on-one assessment. So teacher, student type of an assessment. So to create an assessment, you could go to one of your shortcuts like create an assessment, or you can always click on assessments, create assessment, and then it takes you to this page where we were before, where I would select the type of assessment I want to create. So let's say I want to create a flexible assessment. What it's going to do is prompt me through the steps to build this assessment, right? So I'm coming to the table essentially with a test already created, and what I'm going to be doing is inserting the answer key, right? So for my first question, question number 1, what question type is it? I can select whatever makes sense and then add that question in. And then I would go ahead and select the correct answer. There's a variety of different things I can add to it, including aligning it to standards. But one thing I wanted to note is there are a variety of different question types you can create within the flexible assessment. You've got multiple choice, partial credit, multiple choice advanced, constructed response advanced, explicit constructed response, and number grid. So it's not just a simple multiple choice question. You can really enhance the question types by using this flexible assessment option. So additionally, you could create a different type of assessment, like let's say the new item bank. And then I can start building my assessment. I can click Browse and select the standards that I want to choose from. All of the questions are associated with standards. And the thing I really want to point out is the bank that you want to select from. So specifically when it comes to our Inspect suite of assessments, you can select Inspect Plus, and then it's going to pick questions that are connected to the standards you selected that are within that bank of assessments. And I can go also so far to select the item type that I'm looking for. So right now it's going to yield all of the different questions associated with that standard, but I can also say, I'm looking specifically for a, constructor response type question. And so I can drill down further, even into my DOK, and select the questions that I'm looking to use to build an assessment. So those were a couple of tips in navigating the item bank. The entire Inspect suite of assessments is kind of two parts. So one, you can go to the item bank and filter on that specific bank and yield specific test questions that are from the Inspect bank of assessments. Or you can go one step further and go to your list of assessments, and in this filter under Inspect Prebuilts, you can see the pre-made assessments that Inspect has created. So they are complete assessments that you can use and administer to your students, but you can also customize them and help them, fit to your curricular alignment. So once again, to access these Inspect Plus assessments, you can go to Assessments, View Assessments, and then Filter, or you can use this shortcut, Inspect Plus Assessments, and it already has a filter on there for you for the current year, and it gives you a list of all the assessments that have been created and shared to you. And you can add a filter for the specific year. But what you can do is you can go one step further on these filters. So these are all Inspect assessments, but they break them down by the type of assessment they are. So for example, these coming back assessments, if I was to select that, it gives me a list of the assessments that are available for purposes of kind of checking to see what gaps students are coming with the start of the school year. Additionally, you can check out focus interims, which are more meant for giving formative assessments throughout the school year, broken up into seasons. But with all of these different assessment types, you can customize them to fit your curricular needs. So additionally, if I were to go to the tile page again and click on Inspect Plus Resources, it's going to take me to the Inspect Resources page where I'd want to look at Inspect Math and ELA, View Resources, as those are the two subject areas that Inspect Plus covers for us. And listed here will be the whole list of assessments, but also a breakdown of the types of assessments that exist, right? So if I clicked on one to open up, it will tell me specific grade levels and subject areas, and then also give me kind of a breakdown of what that assessment will look like in terms of length and purpose and all that sort of thing. Additionally, you can click on some of these linked tools and it'll give you pacing guides, assessment blueprints, so you could really dive into the specifics of the assessment without having to start from scratch, and then you can customize it to fit your needs. And one quick tip for assessments is when it comes to simplifying the duplication and sharing process, let's say you found an Inspect pre-made assessment that you want to slightly tweak and make match your needs. So let's say you're working with a grade level or subject area team to customize this test. Not every single one of you on the team has to do this. You could just have one person duplicate the assessment, then change the name to something that makes sense for your naming conventions, being consistent throughout. Make the needed changes, and then once that assessment is updated, you can share that assessment out with your entire team, giving them can view and download and can administer privileges. And then it uncomplicates the whole process. So one last thing to cover is Prebuilt Reports for assessment data. One of the best parts about Illuminate is it has a whole slew of pre-built reports that all you have to do is administer an assessment and then select the report that you want to run your data on. It's that easy. So what's great about the pre-built reports is it really is built into your assessment. So Once you give an assessment, you will see this overview page, for example, in this flexible assessment, and it will give you this little donut of data that breaks it down into mastered, not mastered, your average percent correct, and then you can look at your performance bands. And you can even dig into the specific questions and standards that students hit. You can also move across the right here and click performance, response frequency, achievement gaps, and then reports is where you can find all the different Prebuilt reports. Another way to find these Prebuilt reports is that shortcut I showed you on your tile page. So if I select Prebuilt reports for assessments, it's going to take me to that page that has links to all the different Prebuilt reports as well as the help docs. And if I click on the help docs, I've got a couple examples I can show you. So the two that I would highlight would be first the assessment matrix report. And it looks kind of like this grid. You've got your students on the left and then the questions over the top. And if you look at each student individually, you can look across and see the green is the correct answers and the red is answers that they got wrong, along with the answer that they put in there. So you could see, for example, in this case, that question number 6 was highly missed. So then you could dig into that question and maybe look into what about that question might have caused some confusion. Another really great report is the response frequency report, and this one gives you a breakdown of the number of questions that were missed, which questions were missed, but I really like this view right here where you can look at a specific question, look at the percent of points earned, the number correct versus the number of incorrect. These are all your students, and then number of students that did not respond, and then a breakdown of how many students selected each of your question options. So for example, for this question, you can see that the correct answer was C, and many students selected that, but also many students selected D. So you could dig into that question. What about that question cause confusion between option C and D? And so it kind of gives you just a different lens to look at some of your data. So I highly encourage you to utilize and check out many of the Prebuilt reports and find which one makes sense for looking at your student data. Thanks for joining the CCRESA EdTech Summer Stretch Micro PD Series episode number 3, Tips and Tricks for a Better Illuminate DNA Experience. Be sure to complete the 2-minute reflection feedback survey found in your email blast. And also stay tuned for next week's episode, Best Practices for Efficiency in Google Classroom. If you have any follow-up questions or need additional support, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.